Welcome back to We Love the State, the state's favorite podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Ben. Welcome.
Good to have you back. Kind of a free-form episode today where we're just going to talk about, I guess, whatever pops up in our head.
Which usually isn't a problem for us.
Not at all.
I was going to say we were just talking for probably the last, 30 minutes at least.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I should have just hit and record.
Well, I guess to start things off, I do want to talk about my favorite CNN headline I've ever seen in my entire life that I tweeted about earlier today. But just for the sake of getting the ball rolling on this.
And I thought it was a rapper. So I'm like, this is an entertainment post from CNN? That doesn't make sense.
So from Maya Davis at 1:28 p.m. today, this is the headline. The World Health Organization on Wednesday declared the ongoing Mpox, which nobody has ever called ever, all right, declared the ongoing Mpox outbreak in Africa a global health emergency. Now, before we point out the obvious, like, oh, they're trying COVID 2.0, like they're just trying it again, without realizing that it's not going to work this time. They didn't have the balls to call it monkeypox because it's an outbreak in Africa.
It's brilliant and sad, and I'm not surprised, but I think it's hilarious.
I do too, because I saw the headline and I was like, you weak cowards. I was like, what's it called again? Mpox? Oh, nobody's ever called it that. Ever. Not once. From the very beginning, it was monkeypox.
Yeah, you can't cause a pandemic of people being scared from a disease that they've never heard of before. Yeah. Like, Mpox, what's that? It's not going to cause panic.
Mm-hmm. The fact that you can't call it monkeypox because it's an outbreak in Africa, that does nothing but it tells me, like, oh, you actually think Africans are monkeys.
Yeah.
Like, you put them on the same level as monkeys.
That's racism. By trying to avoid being racist, it's more racist.
Yeah. Yeah. Just call it what it is. Unless you think that Africans are too dumb to understand. You know what I mean?
It makes sense. And I think for the most part, people who are always screaming racism mm-hmm. and pointing everywhere, it's like, well, that's where your brain went.
Yeah.
So what does that make you?
Exactly. If you're always thinking about it and always looking for it.
Right. You're not virtue signaling. Mm-hmm. You're looking for it.
Yeah. You are creating racism where it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about division, and mm-hmm. unfortunately we live in a country where it's divide. I mean, that's one of the things that I think I can't remember which podcast they were talking about it today, but they were talking about how the president was just an attempted assassination happened. Mm-hmm. By everybody knows it was our own government.
Yeah.
And then a week later, everybody's outraged about the opening of the Olympics. Mm-hmm. I think this was Dave Smith was talking about it on Tucker recently, and Dave was like, "Focus, people.
Yeah,
you're just this outrage culture is there to just get you to move past what really matters. Mm-hmm. Like, we just had a presidential frontrunner, an attempted suicide. If he hadn't turned one more inch to his left or right, he would have his head would have blown up on screen.
Yeah,
and you forget about it because of a gay dude at the Olympics,
mm-hmm. Which was not, and I could not care less about France, but it's like the thing that they're really mad about is they portrayed the Last Supper and there was a gay dude there and it was a total mockery of Christianity. First of all, no, it wasn't. This was like some ancient Greek god thing. Like, it wasn't Christianity at all. It was like mythology.
Greek mythology paired with trans rights and stuff it's trying to modernize.
Yeah.
Greek
so if
mythology.
if there's anybody out there who's gonna be mad about this, it's Hercules. Let him get mad about this. They insulted his culture.
I'm looking for his Twitter account next time I'm on X. Hercules. It's a bunch of firemen and without their shirts off.
It turns out to be Kevin Sorbo's Twitter account.
That would be awesome. If he doesn't have that Twitter handle, he should.
He should. But yeah, the point that Dave made on that Tucker interview is excellent. It's like, stay focused. Like, it's the Olympics, all right? You know how many people care about the Olympics? Not enough, or like not enough to really actually do anything.
Right.
And this is just rage baiting stuff. You know, like the left. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody was actually mad about it, and then some left-wing outlet was like, "Oh, conservatives are so mad," and that's the bait that conservatives took. Is they're like, "I am mad. They're insulting my religion. Blah 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 blah. I don't understand anything that's happening on the screen, but I'm mad about it." You know, like it's rage baiting, because as long as you're mad about the opening ceremony of the stupid freaking French Olympics, the only good thing was Gojira opening. That was killer.
Well, or the guy who placed silver, I think, with the guns, where like everybody else had like the cyborg implants, and he just waltzes up there and was like, bang,
dude. First of all, breakdancing will never be the same after Australia.
No, I must have missed that one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you're clearly more into the Olympics than I am.
Clearly. It's just there's memes all over about it. This Australian breakdancer did what most people are deeming a terrible job, but I think she fucking nailed it.
I didn't even realize breakdancing was in the Olympics.
Yeah, like that's how serious the Olympics are now.
Yeah,
breakdancing is an event, you know. So it's like the new curling. Nobody took curling seriously. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Perfect course.
Yeah, well, I was going to say we don't really have a topic. We're just getting off. No, that sounds way worse.
No, it's dead on. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, getting angry at this stuff is 100% by design, you know, and people just fall for it.
Yeah, I think again Dave made the great point of the fact that leftists are so collective that they can swap their presidential candidate who never was voted for, mm-hmm. and people literally just swap out yard signs and just stay on message, and they stay on point.
No conversation about it whatsoever.
No outrage.
No, like, hey, let's actually look at her policies.
Yep.
She doesn't have any.
The worst vice president, literally by the ratings, mm-hmm. the worst one. And now they're manufacturing crowds for her, AI crowds when she leaves the airport, you know, like, and then in the stadiums.
AI crowds, or the other tactic, and I think this is another thing that Dave talked about on Tucker. I just finished that interview this morning, so it's like fresh in my mind. He was talking about how they will promote one of her speeches with like a rapper or some like pop star and be like, "Oh, come out and see
Megan Thee Stallion."
Yeah, Megan Thee Stallion or something like that. And then they go out and Megan plays 2 songs, and then it's like, "Oh, by the way, here's Kamala Harris."
And she just walks out on stage and waves, maybe shouts a couple incoherent, you know, like,
yeah.
bus,
for a photo
wheels on the bus, and then walks off stage. It's going to be, I mean, if they do, I have my doubts that they'll even do another debate, because mm-hmm. I guess Kamala's insisting on ABC hosting it, and Trump's like, "No, we already did one of those. I said Fox." So I don't think they're going to do another debate. I think we're going to get...
Because I don't think Kamala's ever going to agree to Fox News.
She's not. I don't think she's going to debate Trump.
No.
Like, she barely can hold herself together when it's just her and a camera.
She's an idiot off the top of her head.
Complete idiot.
So, I mean, Trump's not a genius, but he's good in front of a camera.
Right.
You know, he would roast
he can entertain.
Her alive.
She can't even do that.
Mm-hmm. He would roast her alive and then pay her to keep her mouth shut about it.
Yeah. Under the table through his campaign.
Oh man,
it's going to be a very eventful next couple months.
Yeah.
I just kind of got into what happened with the stock market
mm-hmm.
last week. Something that I'd never realized what was happening in Japan. So Japan's had historical, I think they've even had negative interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And their debt to GDP is like over 200%, which is ungodly.
Yeah.
And what people have been doing is borrowing in yen at 0%, and then buying assets in the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So they get a free loan, and the assets are appreciating.
Mm-hmm.
until all of a sudden the Bank of Japan raised interest rates. And that put a lot of people underwater in what the assets they had bought in yen. And so all of a sudden there was a short squeeze and people started selling. And I'm like, part of me was like, why didn't I, if, like the idea of like playing currencies against each other like that, because that's really what it was. It's just a currency gamble of saying like, I'll borrow in this one at 0%, I'll buy assets in this one at 5%, winner, chicken dinner. But all of a sudden, if the interest rate on one end goes down and the interest rate on the other, the yen goes up, maybe you're not making out as you once thought. So it was very, I enjoyed learning, that was a learning opportunity for me. Like why did this happen? And they're saying that there's another $4 to $10 trillion left in these type of currency swaps that haven't been realized yet. So for those of you who are in the financial world, who care about the financial world, or just have a retirement account, a 401k account, buckle up, because it doesn't sound like this is over by any means. Just today, there was an announcement that the yield curve it's been inverted for a long time, which basically means that typically, if you're buying a U.S. debt that's not going to be realized for 30 years, you get a higher interest rate for that than the one that's going to be realized in 5 years, because a 30-year bond or treasury is riskier, so you need a higher interest rate. That's been inverted for the last almost 10 years. No, I don't know if it's been fully 10 years, where it's actually, you get a better interest rate on the 5-year or the 1 year than you do the 30-year, which makes absolutely no sense. When that curve flips back, and that's every time that happens, a recession happens. It started flipping back today. So there is again, you put, it's been one of those where this is fiat money. It's all about theft. That's all fiat money is. It's theft. It's legalized theft. And everybody knows that it's going to collapse, and it's just like, what's going to be the catalyst? And Japan might be the catalyst. So just if you're in retirement accounts, if you are somebody who likes to invest, I got a couple of guys that work with me that are like, it's fun a little bit, especially in the tech stuff where it's kind of gambling, like who's going to go up. But just understand that most stocks in the stock market is a company's debt. So when you're buying them, you're buying debt. It's a lot harder to buy assets, especially in like a retirement account. It's almost impossible to find a retirement account that doesn't just is stuffed with government debt and business debt.
Wow.
And so what happens is when the stock market crashes, you lose all your money. The government and the companies are perfectly fine, because then they can just buy back their stock at a cheaper price. So the system is rigged that the individual picks up the tab anytime the system tries to self-correct. Because that's what, in a capitalist system, and we have a fraction left of what a capitalist system looks like, but even what we have, there are correction cycles, and they're inevitable. And the system's built to let the small guy hold the bag at the end of the day. So if, check your retirement accounts. That's, I think, too many people have no idea. They're just like on autopilot, and their 401k and whatever their retirement account just chooses how it's invested, and nobody even actually knows what it is. I was shocked when I started trying to get into it, like, how can I self-direct these funds? And I had to wrestle that away from my retirement account, and they would only let me take 50% to reinvest in however I saw fit. So it's getting harder and harder to even manage your own money in a retirement account system, because the government first tries to hide all of its debt in the banks, and then the banking system and the investment world kind of collaborating now. And so now the retirement accounts are trying to, it's all about shoving all of this paper debt under rugs, and they're running out of rugs. And I think that's the scary part about this next recession is it's going to, all the rugs are going to be rolled up. And you're going to see a lot of damage, and that's what's scary to me is because we still have baby boomers that are working because they can't afford to retire on Social Security.
Yeah.
And they're hoping maybe another couple of years, and maybe their retirement accounts, will pay them,
or
dividends
until they can get disability.
Something.
Yeah.
And another recession is going to just wipe them out, and they're all going to be on the government dole then, trying to collect benefits or, it's disability or something, and I've just noticed, even just driving around, I don't know if you have either, but it's amazing how many people have stuff for sale in their yards now.
Yep, a lot.
Boats, golf carts, four-wheelers, cars.
Yeah, tons of
I'm
people.
just, within the next probably week or so, I'm just like, oh, it's something else. It's almost everybody has something for sale in the yard. It's like, here's all that government, the COVID checks. They bought these toys. And now they're broke because the government gave them $3,000 and then stole 30% of their money.
Yep. And
I remember, I don't remember where I read that, but I remember around when those checks were coming out, there were people in the libertarian space and the Austrian economic space was like, understand that $3,000 now, they're going to steal way more than that on the backside.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that now. So just, everybody out there that's listening,
they disguised poison as candy.
Yep.
And everybody signed up for it. And then when those checks stopped coming in, people were like, we should get more checks still, Like I remember Andrew Yang had a little flare of popularity again about UBI during that time. And it's just like what that does to the human psyche of just having crap handed to you, without working for it or earning it or anything like that. It just messes some people up, and I mean,
you don't value it.
You don't value it. It doesn't mean anything to you. That you get that money and you're like, oh, we can order a pizza every day for a week, or something like that, and nobody invested with that money,
or paid off debt.
Yeah, maybe a few people here and there got their bills caught up or something like that.
Right.
I mean, shoot, how many people just stopped paying rent? You remember that when they were like, oh yeah, they can't kick you out.
Right.
So almost everybody was like, we're not paying this.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, why is rent so high? It's like, well, because the government can just screw all of these people who own the property over tomorrow whenever they feel like it. Well, the rent's now taking that into consideration.
Because what are the landlords going to do? Like, the landlords are the most vilified demographic in this country.
They still have to pay the mortgages. They still have to pay
all
the
maintenance.
bills.
They have to pay the staff. They have to pay every time you go and smoke in your stupid apartment and then move out to some other crappy apartment. They have to go and get all that stink out of there and replace the carpet and and repaint and like.
And it was great for Vanguard and BlackRock to come in and just like buy up these apartment buildings because the landlords are like, I'm not doing this. If the government's just going to turn around and basically tell me that I have to go to the poorhouse, because that's really what it was. It was basically like you. And that's the thing isn't that crazy? It's like that was. Over COVID, I think the more I reflect on what we went through, the more I'm like, wow. Not just telling people they couldn't work, but telling people what they could do or not do with their own property and their own body. Like, it was so invasive and so, like, completely destroying what we have left of individual rights and individual freedom.
Yeah.
And I think even still today, we've got 30, probably more like 50% of the country that would love to have that happen again.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I think for like low status individuals, it gave them purpose to be able to tattle on their neighbor, to be able to be like, I'm wearing a mask, like virtue signaling, and it made them like feel important.
Yeah. Because they had absolutely nothing going on in their life. That's the only thing that they can do to make themselves feel better about their own life and their own situation is I have to go and make sure that I'm the hall monitor for this BS disease, you know?
It was definitely like, I mean, I remember Gina Carano, like that post she made, and that kind of got her canceled from Disney about like
where she said that Republicans were...
Well, comparing the Holocaust to what was happening with COVID, of like, because neighbors were turning on neighbors.
Yeah.
Which was a very valid, and I don't think I quite fully grasped that. You know, I never thought it was anti-Semitic, like it was being painted. But like, again, hindsight looking back was like, that's exactly what happened in Germany in the 30s.
Yeah.
We lived it.
It kind of makes you realize that like, America is not so like set apart from every other country in the world that we could never have a Holocaust, you know. But one thing that I have been wanting to talk about for a minute, and first of all, remember when we were like, we're bringing the podcast back and it's going to be like positive, we're not going to be like downers all the time. Well, I think the United States is basically the Weimar Republic 2.0. So I think that's where we are now. I think I think that we could very, very, very easily see the rise of some Hitler-esque figure or some Nazi-esque organization or political party or just political movement, you know.
Promising to save everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, like, the left keeps psychotically pushing us in a certain direction, and it's like, if you know anything about the history of World War II, I'm not a historian, you know, I'm not even a World War II like buff, but I know enough about World War II to know that like there are a lot of cultural similarities between America right now and Weimar Germany. You know, there are a ton of like specifically cultural things that are similar. You know. And it's just any American culture that we had has been completely eroded away, you know.
It's still there in pockets, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the thing. This is where I get kind of Kaczynski on you, but like I feel like the internet and technology has something to do with that. I don't think to the point where we would need to like, you know, burn down the Apple headquarters or anything like that, but I think sort of the ease of access to all collected human knowledge of all time has just I don't know, I feel like it's done something.
Oh, for sure.
To our culture.
But I think,
especially being able to get onto Twitter, and it like, if anybody here follows me on Twitter, you know that sometimes I'm a total bag of shit on Twitter, and sometimes I'll just be mean to be mean. I'm not sitting here pretending like I'm like a great person, but what I'm saying is like the it's so easy to just get onto Twitter and tell somebody that to fuck off, you know, when 99% of the time you would not say that to their face, you know. It's probably 75% of the time I'd say it to their face. 25% of the time the guy's bigger than me, I'd be like, I was just joking, man.
Yeah.
But women and small children, I'll totally tell them to fuck off. Anyway, don't be like me, is what I'm saying. But I guess the point I made is it's so easy to do that. Plus the internet has provided so many safe havens and covers for like pedophiles to get access to children. All three of my kids love the game Roblox, you know, and Roblox for the most part is a pretty safe environment.
It's creative.
It's very creative. My kids love to go on there and try out all these games that are made by other like 11-year-olds,
right?
You know, and which I think, you know, in some ways is kind of the future of gaming, is just kids making games and other kids playing them. But every once in a while, I'll hear one of my kids say, "What was that? What'd you say?" You know, because
they can communicate.
They can communicate, and it'll sound like they're talking to an adult. And I'll be like, "Nope, whatever game that is, like, get off of it. Go to a different server. Go to whatever. Block that person right now." You know, and I've had to teach my kids, like, there are people out there, there are predators out there who will go to kids' games, pretend to be a kid, because they want to talk to you inappropriately.
Right.
And I don't ban my kids from that stuff because I don't necessarily think that that's the answer.
Well, the last thing you want is them to be like sneaking roadblocks on a friend's computer
because
or something like
that's when they will have a conversation with a predator.
It's much better to guide them as a patient.
Exactly.
Say, here are some, like, if they use this phrase, if they ask for this information,
if they ask what your real name is, how old you are, what your address and what state you live in, what country you live in, if they ask any personal information, you never give out a single bit of personal information. Right. And the thing is you don't know who's on the other side of that microphone.
Use it as a teaching opportunity.
Yeah, and so
because that's stuff that they should be able to know at an early age, but that's going to set them up for life.
Yeah,
especially when they become teenagers and they're almost.
It's teaching them. I feel like a very, very healthy application of skepticism.
Yep. Critical thinking
and a healthy amount of sort of baseline distrust for people that they don't know.
Right. You know, without causing them fear.
Exactly.
Or anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, but going back to like the internet, like the internet has created several, probably hundreds of thousands of safe havens for pedophiles to get access to children.
But on the flip side, it's created people like Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, a way for people to get information outside of government-controlled propaganda. It is very much a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and looking at it that way, like that's anything, not just the internet. That's just the world, Well,
technology tends to do that.
Like Epstein's Island, that was not on the internet. That was a real place, and that was a safe haven for child predators, But what I'm saying about the internet is like, I feel like because there is most likely such a huge amount of spaces for like predators, I feel like it's almost kind of normalized it in a bit to where you start to see that leaking more and more out into the mainstream. Like there are college professors giving talks about the correct way to address a map, not a pedophile, a map, a minor attracted person. And it's like, how can anybody in their right mind not run them out of town with torches and pitchforks?
Groups like Gays Against Grooming. Mm-hmm. The fact that they actually have to exist is kind of like clearly they're pushing back against something.
Yeah.
And that's sad that something actually exists.
Well, it's
being normalized.
Well, there's such a huge amount of cowards, of absolute cowards, who it doesn't matter what thing you bring to their attention, as long as you present it as a marginalized minority, they will support it no matter what. Yep. Because they want to be the ones that they want to have the correct opinion, and they don't want to have any controversial opinions. They don't want to go against the flow at all because they're uneducated, they don't know because they're dumb, or because they're too scared to actually push up against something, like push up against somebody else. Like I remember back when I was a lefty, I thought liberals were cool. Even when I was a kid, I thought like the blue-haired people with all the piercings are awesome. They look cool. They sound cool. And
buzzwords are cool.
Buzzwords are really cool. Like, and I don't know. There's like an entrapment thing to that where it's like the most weak-willed, cowardly people get sucked into that and never learn to think for themselves. And even if they realize that, they never employ that.
It's groupthink, and I think our education systems teach it.
Designed.
Yeah, it's designed.
It's designed to do that.
Yeah, and it's the whole peer pressure, and it's something I think for me being homeschooled. Like I didn't step foot into a classroom until driver's training.
Yeah.
So
I was homeschooled until 5th grade.
It definitely gives you a different perspective of I don't care what they think, and that's what I think frustrates me. All of a sudden, my girls are like, we want this specific Nike shoe. And last year, we had to have Stanley thermoses. Yeah. And it's just like, to be cool, I need this thing. Mm-hmm. And I never did that. I never went through that. I can't empathize or sympathize with that. And so for me, it's such a frustrator. It's like, how about you do your own thing? and make everybody follow you.
Yeah.
And I always try to push back on that, but I don't know how to convince them of that, to say, blaze your own path.
Well, I mean, at the same time, I remember being that age, and up until about 5th grade, you know, I didn't really care about, like, what clothes I had or anything like that. But, you know, for example, my cousins, I have these 5 cousins, and they were all homeschooled from preschool to, maybe not preschool or whatever, but from all throughout their life, entire life, all homeschooled, you know? And first of all, here's one thing I will say about them. They're not weird. They had a very active social life, and every single one of them, down to the dumb one, and I'm not going to specify which one it is.
Down to the dumb one.
Down to the dumb one. They're all super smart. They're all way smarter than I am, you know, even the dumb one.
Even the dumb one. I really need to go to the next family reunion. Live! We love the state from the Coons family reunion.
But anyway, my cousins are not dumb, except for the one. But I can't stop. Anyway, yeah, like they all had very, very normal lives growing up, and they're all like married now and have, you know, kids, and like they're all great people. There was still, like, when they were in high school, because they went to youth group at church. We went to the same youth group whenever I was in high school, and like there was still a little bit of that, you know, like,
window looking.
All my friends have this thing.
Oh, really? Even from them?
Yeah, it's just,
well, there's human nature.
Yeah.
Like, it's not taught.
Because even now, as a 35-year-old guy who could give no shits about my appearance, like, there's still some times where I'm like, that dude's shoes are kind of cool. I wish I had them.
There's been a few times where I've seen this shirt and been like, Amazon, how quickly can I get that shirt?
Yeah. So, I think that's just like a human nature thing. But I can see that being in like elementary school or middle school or something like that.
And we're definitely pack animals. There is innate need to be liked.
Yeah.
And I would never want to discourage that for sure. Mm-hmm. I hate.
I think instead of being liked, I think the value that you should instill, that we should all instill, is you should be at the very least genuine.
Yeah.
You should be a real person.
Right.
And like that's something that.
If you really like the shoes, get the shoes, but don't just get the shoes because everybody else likes the shoes.
Yeah.
That's not genuine.
Yeah.
I really like that point. That's a good point.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, take somebody like Rachel Maddow, all right, and you weigh her against somebody like Joe Rogan, all right? Joe Rogan, like, you can say a lot of things about him, crazy conspiracy theorist, whatever. One thing you absolutely have to say about him is that he's genuine.
Right.
You know? And the people that don't call him genuine either don't listen to the show, know nothing about him, or they've only heard talking points on left-wing news outlets. The only thing they know about him is horse paste. Those are the only people that don't think he's a genuine person, you know? But I've heard from hundreds of his guests that they're like, yeah, he's the same dude off camera. Like, it's just Joe. He's a genuine person. When you take somebody like Rachel Maddow, who could be replaced tomorrow.
And they'd be reading the same script.
They'd be reading the exact same script. Nobody actually truly cares about her.
Right.
Nobody cares about her. Nobody cares about her well-being. Nobody cares about the point that she's making. The only thing that they care about is she's gay and she hates Donald Trump. You know? Which she could get hit by a train tomorrow and they'll just find another lesbian who hates Trump, you know, and they'll chop her hair off and give her dumb glasses. And
what do you think it says about those people who? Because my general idea is that most people crave authenticity.
Yeah.
But there has to be a segment of the population who crave inauthenticity, like.
They crave.
Who just listens to CNN and people that read scripts, mm-hmm. and maybe they've never seen a Joe Rogan episode or a Tucker, because I think it's so obvious once you see the difference.
Yeah.
One is real, one is fake,
mm-hmm.
and it's obvious. You have to be so bought into the fake ideology that you prefer fake over real. And to me, that's scary. And it kind of ties back to something that Michael Malice has been talking about recently is there are a segment of human beings that are just empty, soulless,
they're just turned off
creatures. Yeah. They're not human. And he even paints that like it's very dark the way he kind of thinks about these people of like there's nothing. Somebody flipped a switch and they're on autopilot.
Or like have you heard the thing where it's like some people don't have an inner monologue? Cuz here's the thing. I
wish there are days where I didn't have an inner monologue.
Trust me.
Where is that off switch?
Yeah, for real. I'm talking in my head all day long, and I'm working out problems and I'm thinking about issues and I'm thinking about, all kinds of stuff. I'm thinking about the next song I'm going to write, what the opening is going to be like. I'm thinking about just all kinds of stuff, but I have like an inner voice. And I cannot for the life fathom what not having that would be like.
Do you think there are people that don't have it?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Or people...
I mean, that would make sense of the Michael Malice's, these are the dead people walking.
Or you could describe this cup.
We love the state.
You could describe this cup to me and be like, it's the We Love the State logo on a red background on a silver metal cup. And I'd be like, okay, got it. And I can picture that in my head. And there are some people who you can describe that to, and they're like, oh, cool. They don't see an image in their head until you actually put this in front of them,
That's fascinating to me. I'd never even thought about that.
It's like, it's almost like...
Because they are truly the undead that just walking around on autopilot.
That are just existing, and they don't think about anything happening in the world, like, there's just nothing going on there,
That is sad because there's been a few times I've heard Michael Malice talk about it and be like, I don't want to believe that, even though I think deep down inside there are people that you meet and you look in their eyes and you see dead.
Yeah,
they're just the eyes are windows of the soul. I'm a firm believer of that, and there are people with dead eyes, and I've always known that for a long time. And then when Michael Malice started talking about this idea that there are people that are they're unreachable, they are unpersuadable. You could present facts. They are just like, this is what I believe. They are just soulless creatures on an autopilot, and they crave authority to just tell them where to go next. Like NPCs, I think, are non-player characters.
Yeah. So then what's the solution to that? I think it's concentration camps.
I think it's indoctrination camps. But that's it's not a bug. It's not a bug, it's a feature, right? I think that our education system is designed to turn those type of people out. They're being more successful, now than probably ever. But that was...
that kind of makes sense because so much of our life is like automated and easy.
But when's the last time you were taught to critically think about something? Where the instructor or the subject matter expert or whoever it is said, don't believe me, go do your own research.
Okay, so I graduated from a Christian school, and I think I got a fairly decent education at school. I only have a high school diploma, but I remember...
school, at that point in time, is probably a college diploma, at least an associate's degree nowadays.
Well, I remember having very, very, very thought-provoking, discussions because I had Bible teachers who there were two particular Bible teachers that I'm thinking of, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. And one of them was very by the workbook. Or by the lesson, we go exactly by the lesson plan, and you only talk about the things on the lesson plan, and then you assign homework.
No deviation.
There's no deviation. And it's just very black and white, step-by-step bullet points. And the other one, he would have his lesson plan, and he would assign his homework, but we would have long discussions, about things in the Bible that he would say, well, what about this story? What about this angle to this story? And it would be there's a Bible story about a guy named Jephthah who goes off to war, and he's a wealthy guy, you know, and the story goes that in the battlefield he cries out to God, and he said, "God, if you grant us victory, I will sacrifice the first thing I see when I get home." And they won, and so he's rejoicing and coming home from battle, and we won the battle, and I'm going to sacrifice the first thing I see when I get home. The first thing he sees when he gets home, his daughter. His daughter walks out of his front door, and he falls to the ground, pleading like, "Don't make me do this. Don't make me do this. Don't make me do this." And God was silent. And so that was his answer. Like, you said you were going to do this. Put your money where your mouth is, you know? And so he allows his daughter to go and weep for 3 days, and then comes back and he sacrifices his daughter, you know? And so it's like, that's a dark story, you know? And if you're talking to like edgy atheist douche, you know, like I used to be, then, you know, that's your whole sort of like, oh, see, all this is bullshit, you know?
Right.
But like the way that we were talking about it is like, okay, there's this story, and just on its face, God looks like the bad guy here, you know? Jephthah looks like an idiot, but God looks like a monster for allowing him to sacrifice his daughter. His daughter was innocent.
Follow through with what he committed to.
He made a promise to the creator of the universe.
Right.
You know?
So the story, it's kind of like one of those parables, is like, be careful of what you promise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because, and it's like, I think the story is told as a parable.
As a parable.
I'm not 100% sure. I want to say it's in the Old Testament.
I think it was,
but,
yeah.
But anyway, but still, like, we had a discussion about that story, and it was like, it was thinking critically about the Bible, you know, and it's like, kind of make this make sense to me,
mm-hmm.
you know, and that was that teacher's approach to that. So you take that kind of an approach with where you're talking to kids like they are adults, but or giving them the same sort of respect that you would give an adult.
Right.
Like, I could go to an adult and talk about that story, that Bible story, and we could have an in-depth discussion about it. But, you know, people just tend to keep that stuff away from kids because they're like, oh, they're kids, they're not ready for it. But it's like, we had very
Are you teaching up or are you teaching down?
Exactly. So you have that kind of experience versus the other Bible teacher that I had that was very just by the book, and there was no depth to it. You know?
Well, talk about nowadays, like, there are teachers that are like, oh, if you want to be a cat, I'll put a litter box in the, you know, corner of the classroom,
mm-hmm.
so you can urinate and defecate in the litter box because you're a cat.
Was that confirmed?
Yeah.
Because I want to say that I heard that it was in Grand Rapids.
No,
but then I heard that it was a hoax.
No,
it didn't actually happen.
It was. I want to say it was in Indiana, but there's. I mean, that's an extreme, but that's. If you want to be a girl, we're going to dress you like we placate to kids' imaginations now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't teach them how to be an adult.
Mm-hmm.
We teach them to never grow up.
Yeah.
To live in a fairy tale.
You know what? That kind of makes sense because millennials never truly grew up.
No.
You know, they never truly grew up, and I'm as guilty as any other millennial. Like I have a shelf full of Star Wars Legos, and oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, but I'm in that lost generation, right between, you know.
But I guess another thing, like there's a part of me whenever there's like sort of a tough decision, I tend to always go and ask my boss what I should do, or I have to go and ask my wife what I should do, or something like that. Instead of just being like, this is what we're doing, you know, instead of like taking charge and like putting my foot down.
But there's a plus and minus to that too, because
mm-hmm.
you know, especially from a leadership perspective, like, if I'm going to make a decision, I want to make sure everybody has input before my decision's made.
Yeah.
That's going to influence my decision,
mm-hmm.
and I think that's the best of both worlds. You don't want to be somebody who just goes with the majority, democracy, or you just are a dictator and you're like, do what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, trying to find that happy medium, I think, is valuable. It's the extremes that are the problems.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying, like, that's something that I've noticed about a lot of other millennials too, is just this sort of trepidation to like do something, you know. And there is another part of me where I am a doer in some aspects. Like, if there's something that I really 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 want to do, you know, like whenever I made God Emperor, I was like, I want to write and record an album myself.
It takes a lot of dedication to do something
man,
by yourself.
Yeah.
That's insanity. I'm still blown away.
Well, start to finish, it took 3 years to record it, just because I was doing everything. But that was one of those things where I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I feel like I need to do this, you know. Right. But anyway, I lost it.
I lost train of thought. So let's transition, actually. So we are looking at doing another, not necessarily a podcast, but another entertainment venue. We'd call it that.
Another venture. We've been talking about starting a YouTube channel, and it's in the very, very, very early stages. You know, we've got a script written. You know, we haven't really planned out how it's going to be shot or anything like that.
But for those who are familiar with Andy's, previous like short videos on TikTok, it'll be, I think, something similar but in a longer format.
Yeah. So like it's, you know, for those of you that remember those videos, because they've been down for a while, but a lot of it was, you know, little skits where I was talking to like a version of myself, and one of the version was a libertarian, the other person was, you know, either a normie, yeah. But like one thing that we were thinking of with this YouTube channel is like, let's expand on some of these ideas and like go in depth with them, and they're still going to be funny, you know. But I think there's a lot that we can. I think there's a lot of depth that we can reach with some of the video ideas that we have. We don't have any sort of timetable or anything. So there's a lot of layers that we're thinking of with it. But I think it's something that people would enjoy.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think it would be fun to create.
Yeah.
It's it's something that we don't want to push a message. We want to be very not avert or like disingenuous. I mean, it's going to be very genuine.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, approaching subject matters from an entertainment perspective rather than a political or like commentary perspective. I mean, there's going to be commentary, elements to it in a kind of a self-reflective way, probably, but it's not going to be an in-your-face, this is wrong, this is right.
Yeah.
The idea is we want the people that see the world that way we see the world to be like, oh yeah, totally get that. But the people who don't see the world the same way are going to be like, that's offensive. Because we really want to push the envelope without pushing the envelope, if that makes sense.
Well, okay. So imagine you're talking to your mom, just generic everybody's mom, who's a normie, and that's fine. It's okay for moms to be normies, but like, she's not really politically engaged. She's not watching the headlines like we are, she's not listening to all the podcasts or whatever. She's just mom, Well, how do you communicate libertarian ideas and libertarian values to somebody who, as soon as you mention anything political, as soon as you mention the government,
right, they
just turn it off. This is boring. How do you communicate ideas to a person like that? And I think the way that you do that is you show, you don't tell. You don't say like, I'm a libertarian. This is about the government. This is about the non-aggression. You don't say that. You just show it. You do that visually, and after a while, if you show libertarian values instead of just saying this is a libertarian value, then people will see that and be like, I believe in that. Like that's I agree.
Sense. Because it's in a way it's educational.
Mm-hmm.
It's an informational, but it's educational and it's entertaining. I think the entertainment part needs to be like front and foremost.
Oh, absolutely.
Of like, this is funny, this is insightful, I never thought about that before.
Mm-hmm.
stuff,
Very sexy.
Well, that's duh.
Obviously.
Like, you look at us. It's just that's going to happen. By
You're like, you don't have to keep selling it
to me. You had me at sexy. But that's the stuff that I value. People like Critical Drinker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a message in his movie reviews and his commentary that is very like is very freedom oriented. It's very like it's art. It's art. It's art. I mean, because if you start putting art in a box, it's not art anymore. It's propaganda.
Yeah.
Because whoever built the box that the art is now in, that controls the, like, that's the thing, is art can't be controlled. You start putting boundaries, you start limits, you start putting like who you can and can't hire, what you can and can't say. It's not art. And we can just look at the entertainment landscape in the last couple of years, at least a couple of years, and be like, there's a reason why movies aren't being made.
Yeah.
Because there are subject matters that can't be touched.
Yeah.
And how do you make entertainment when you can't touch A through Z almost at this point? You get Deadpool and Wolverine, like, that's something that broke through, but only because of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
But it broke through, but not even all that much, Like, Deadpool's a pansexual, which, I mean, he is in the comics, but, like, all of that, they sprinkled it in there, just to I feel like they did that just to keep it safe.
They tried to skirt the line, but they played pretty heavy on, like, pointing the finger at Marvel in a lot of ways, of being like, you're a bunch of pussies.
Yeah.
But those type of movies, it's very few and far between.
Yeah.
I remember in the 90s, it was like, man, you could go to a movie every week and see a new movie that you walked out of like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That's just, it's not the world we live in anymore.
Yeah.
And that's because we self-censorship, and not even self, but like the system censors itself. And again, that's kind of tying back to like, this, looking at this from an entertainment perspective. It's something that I'm super excited about because it's not being done, and it should be.
Yeah.
So if we can kind of drive that ship in a small way and kind of lead the way in bringing thought-provoking entertainment back, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Outside of that, again, episodes, we're trying to do one every week. It's not happening as consistent, but like, we don't get paid for this unless you want to pay us.
Yeah.
We'd love to be able to do this, more frequently, but man, it's, we were just talking before, it's just like, and I'm probably preaching to the choir, like, life is expensive nowadays. And every time you think you got ahead, the next month you're like, what happened? Like, I had a nest egg here and it's gone, and I didn't do anything, I didn't buy anything, like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I mean, within the last 2 years, I was like, I'm living comfortably, to like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, to like, shit, I need a debt consolidation credit card now.
Yeah.
And nothing's changed except for the government, like, destroying the value of our money. And that's just, a topic maybe for another day, but it's just, I know everybody feels it, and we're probably preaching the choir a little bit when it comes to that topic, but
we should revolt. Anyway, folks.
On that note,
good to see you again. Hey, if you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is X, Andy_Coons. I say a lot of dumb shit on there, so if you want to, I'm a good follow. I'm a good X follow, because I do say some funny things. Anyway, keep an eye out for new music that I'll be releasing. I don't know when, but I'm working with the vocalist who's also like a legit producer, and man, this stuff sounds awesome. So it's going to be released under the name Animal Violence. Hopefully we can get a single out or something in the next month or two, but man, I'm really excited about it. So yeah.
You can find me on X, Picture This 1979. I'm only excited because I repost his stuff. The downside of being the communications director for the Libertarian Party of Michigan is I spend most of my time on that side of the platform. So feel free to follow the Libertarian Party of Michigan, LPMI, and I probably spend most of my time posting there. But I really should spend more time on the other side in the personal space as well. But X is one of those spots that hopefully, knock on wood, it's going to continue to be a free speech platform. Otherwise, you'll be able to follow us at least on the videos itself on Rumble and YouTube.
Yeah.
As long as this one, I don't know about YouTube. We did touch on COVID a little bit, but I don't think we. I don't think we crossed the line.
Are we uploading to? We're uploading to Rumble also.
Rumble
right?
and YouTube, yeah. So Rumble will be for sure. You'll see every episode. YouTube, I haven't seen.
We need to upload these episodes on X.
That's true. They do video. We'll have to double check on.
That's where I watched the Tucker Carlson.
If it has
Dave
to be a
Smith.
subscription.
Oh yeah, it could be.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
But if and again at one point we're still in the build back better phase of the podcast, and we'd love to get our subscriptions back up to where we were when we kind of left things off, and then continue to grow from there. We'd love to do some live stuff, whether it's just a live episode and we can be able to read comments. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
And my goal has always been to do a live episode where people can actually come out and see us live.
Yeah.
So, that would be right up your alley with stand-up and, be able to be
that'd be fun.
kind of front and center and just be, kind of like a Dave Smith, Robbie the Fire when they do live episodes and just shoot the shit and be take questions from the audience and just have fun as, a group
That'd be a ton of fun.
freedom-loving free thinkers. So stay tuned for that. We do have some active political candidates here in Michigan that are going to be on the road giving speeches, and maybe we can tag on and do a live show with a Q&A with him and maybe some surprise guests from other podcasts. So, stay tuned. We'll definitely be keeping everybody up to date on X, probably more than anything else. And appreciate everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I'll leave you with this. Make We Love the State great again.
Amen.